Hey friends, Big Tank here. Welcome to another episode of Big Tank Talk. Today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Dan Wesley White. He is a veteran and a up and coming country singer. Did I get that right, Dan?
Singer-songwriter.
Okay, singer songwriter. Welcome to Big Tank Talk.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Uh, so I mentioned you're a veteran. So first off, I want to thank you for your service and I hope you had a wonderful Veterans Day.
Sure did, and hope you did too.
I did. It was a good day. Long day, but it was a good one.
Oh yeah.
Um, and Are you genre specific? I said country, but I should have asked. Do you do country or you do rock and roll or other genres as well?
I dabble in everything because that was my job actually in the Army. Was I was one of the Army bandsmen. So we went around touring for all the troops that were out in the field and stuff. So we would have to always come up with shows that had every genre in it so we could make sure all the troops heard something they liked. But right now in this age of my life, I'm trying to stick more to like southern like rock country, but most of the stuff I've put out is kind of a country rock flair.
Well, that sounds fair. And I haven't heard a lot of what you've done, but I have heard a little bit, and what I've heard I like.
Oh, thank you.
So, um, since we branched into that and you're here, let me start off asking you, what got you into music in the first place?
Well, my dad was a Baptist preacher, so I used to sing in the choir and I took piano lessons in church. And as I got older, I dabbled in sports, but I never really felt a click. And so then when I joined the band program in different schools, that's kind of where my passion came out. And I just fell in love with being able to make and play music and bringing emotions out in people. And so that caused me to, when I graduated high school, I actually auditioned and I made the Army band. So I was able to do that professionally for 9 years, tour all over the world and play all over the world.
That had to be a rewarding thing, playing for a bunch of your fellow soldiers around the world and doing what you love doing while you're doing it.
And then also getting paid to travel.
Yeah, there's always that. That's not always to travel to places you want necessarily, but uh, can't deny that the military does offer that opportunity to get out and see the world.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have been able to go to college without it.
So let me ask you: you say you're a singer, a songwriter, and a musician. What is your creative process?
Well, like recently, with all the songs I've put up on Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music, I'm just kind of sitting there, and all of a sudden, like a little earworm will get in my head. I'll hear like a little phrase or something, and then I'll think, well, what can I put that rhymes that'll fit with that kind of feeling that I'm feeling? And that's kind of what I do. I start with the chorus first, the hook, and then I build the verses around that. And then I try to bring out whatever that melody I heard in my head for first and foremost, and then I add the other stuff to it to flesh the song out.
Okay. When when did you write your first song?
Last year, that was the first song I wrote and put together and said, hey, I'm at a point in my life where I'm not doing this to get rich. I'm just doing it to kind of show people who I am and leave something for my family to remember me by once I'm gone.
That's awesome. Now you've been doing music for a while. If you include your military time as well, what inspires you now?
Basically, most of my songs are driven by what's going on in politics right now, as well as the situation where I live, because I'm in Texas, right on the border. So I see all this. Well, I don't want to get too political, but the invasion that's going on right now. I mean, I live in a city that we see thousands upon thousands every day of these people coming in and being set free by border patrol. So some of my songs reflect that in it. Some of my songs reflect the culture because I'm here right on the Mexican border. The one I released this summer called Saturday Night in a Border Town, I put a little Tex-Mex, kind of like Texas tornadoes spin on it. So it's just I guess a gathering of different things, whether it's what's in news, what's pop culture, what I see physically here around me in the environment.
Understandable. And you know, they say all politics is local. So given what you see locally, I certainly understand your passion for getting that out, having people understand what's really going on.
Right.
Um, as you progress into this music industry, what's the best advice you've been given?
Just go slow. It doesn't happen overnight. And that's kind of hard to do sometimes because you put your soul and your body into writing all these lyrics and all these songs, and you want people to feel the same way as you do. But of course, we know it doesn't always happen like that. But I mean, I look at it this way: if I can just move one person, I've done my job.
Right. I imagine that having the patience to let the process play out at its own speed can be frustrating sometimes.
Right, because like I said, I'm already into this a year since last summer, and it's still going slow, but I'm slowly starting to get my name around, and people are understanding where I'm coming from, that kind of thing.
Well, that's a good thing. Now, I know, since you've written songs as well, what is, whether it's your own or something that was done, a popular song, what is your favorite song to perform?
I think the 22 is probably my best one to date right now, and that's the one that just came out for Veterans Day. Just because I believe, I was in the military. I've had those dark days too, where, sometimes bad thoughts get in your head and you just got to push on. And I just want to have that same effect with my music, because music's really the reason I got out of my dark depression days and things like that. And I just want to spread the same message to other people that, hey, there's people out there that care, and, do something productive to get you out of the funk.
I can understand that. And that's something we actually have in common. Dan, I am a big supporter of veteran causes, and ending the 22 veteran suicides a day is a big one for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
This next question, I'm going to ask it in two parts. It has to do with how the internet impacts the music business. First, for you, how is the internet impacting it?
Oh, it's great, because now with technology the way it is, I mean, here I am on the bottom part of Texas, right on the Mexico border, but yet I'm able to talk to studios in Nashville and record my stuff along with them while they're playing the music in Nashville. So I send my vocals through a WAV file to them, and they're able to splice it into the music that's actually being recorded there. So I don't have to be there in person and pay for extra studio time. So it's great technological wise.
Okay. And the second part of that, for the music industry as a whole, how do you feel the internet has impacted it, good or bad?
I think it's still more positive. The only thing I know for sure, though, is after doing this for a year, is the streaming sites are going to be the downfall of the indie artists, just because they pay less than even half a penny for every stream. And now that we just learned Spotify's new marketing plan for next year, you have to have 1,000 streams on each song per year for them to be able to pay you royalties on it, which for the indie artists like me that's just coming up or doesn't have a big following, that's really going to impact us.
Well, hopefully, doing things like this interview with me, and then hopefully you'll get to interview into a wider audience than what I can provide. But it's important for indie artists to be able to get that opportunity as well.
Yeah,
so I'm hopeful for you there.
That's what's good for it. I mean, you can put your music out there and anybody can click it now instead of having to go buy it at the store. But again, the downside is, with the comfort of being able to just listen to anything on the spot, of course, artists are being paid less than pennies on the dollar for the streams. So I think that really needs to come up more.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Let me ask you this. You're not a young kid anymore. Obviously, neither am I. If you could open for anyone in the music business, past or present, who would you like to open for?
I'd like to meet George Strait.
Yeah, they call him King George for a reason. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I've played with his band before, but never him. They came to the hotel I used to work at where I was playing music and stuff, and so they sat in with us. But he had already went home to his house in San Antonio. But it was still an experience to play with some of his coworkers.
Oh, I'm sure it was a blast. I bet you had a lot of fun too.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and a similar question, but from a different angle. If you could collaborate with anyone, who would you collaborate with?
It'd probably be the same answer.
That's been a pretty common theme in my interviews for the most part. So that's a fair answer. Um, if you could change anything about the music business, what would you change?
Just the whole record label, the big dogs getting all the pieces of the pie and throwing the scraps to all the people that are actually pouring their heart and soul into it. I mean, if you've listened to country radio anytime within the last 5 to 10 years, you can see that the decline of country music as it was known is really going down. You're getting all these pop and other influences that are supposedly country now. I mean, it's nothing to do with diversity. It's just that everything sounds similar. If you look at all the structures of the songs, they're very similar to the way
Right.
the chords are changing in certain places, things like that. And it's kind of getting away from what country music was about anyway, which is the blue collar worker complaining and giving them a voice to be heard.
Okay, that sounds fair. Um, what with regard to your music career, what's your biggest fear?
Just not being accepted. Even though
Okay,
I've been playing close to 35 years professionally, but this is the first time I've went out there and exposed my own writings. I've always played covers and things like that. So this is the first time I've actually put my own art out there. And so, I mean, I think that's really the biggest fear for any person that creates living art is just a rejection.
I can understand that. Now, I'm not a songwriter, a singer, or anything musical, but I am a poet. So, if like I get that, if you do something creative, you want people to experience what you've done,
Mm-hmm.
and to not be accepted, that would be pretty crushing, I'd imagine.
Right. And I mean, poets are just the same as what we do, except we just set it to music.
Right. If you had, what message would you give to your fans, be it now or maybe in a few years when you have a larger number of fans? What would be your message to them?
I would say just be yourself. Don't conform to any ideas that you think the music business is. Don't ever give up yourself in it. Always keep to your true heart.
That's good advice. I think that's good advice, generally speaking, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to step away from music just for a second. Do you have a family?
Yes.
And it's a silly question. People are born into them, but I meant like a wife and kids. But
Yes, I have 3 sons.
do they all support what you're doing?
Oh yeah, my oldest is in the Air Force right now. He's just hitting it his 6th year, and then my middle kid, he just hit high school this year, so we put him in ROTC. So I'm trying to keep him in the military frame of way.
Yeah, well, I think the military is good for young people. It gives them structure,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives them responsibility. And I think that's one thing that's lacking today is our young people having to take responsibility for themselves and for things around them.
Right.
One more thing. Where do you see yourself down the road with regard to your music? Like say 5 or 10 years down the road?
Well, I hope with more fans and maybe performing some shows around the U.S. That's my goal now, is to try to get enough songs where I can actually start touring and going out there.
And once you get to that point where you're touring, what do you anticipate would be the hardest part about being on tour?
Just being away from the family, because it happened to me when I was in the Army band as well. I'd have to go on, 2-week, month tours to different zones and things like that, and I'd have to leave the family behind. So it's pretty much the same thing, except it's in the civilian sector.
I would think because of your military experience, and most of us in the military have had some significant separation from their family as part of their military career. I think you'd probably be better equipped to handle that, though, than a lot of people are.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people in the music industry end up drinking heavily or turning to drugs, because they can't handle the negative part of being away from everybody.
Right.
It's something that anybody's going to have to deal with. You just have to find constructive ways to do it.
Right. Everybody just needs to do soul searching and say, is this what I want to do? Knowing what the consequences are. I mean, it even happens to the military when we're deployed, things like that, because we know
Right.
when we're deployed to zones that suicide rates are up higher, mental health is up higher. So it's just basically getting all your ducks in a row and mentally preparing for what you're trying to accomplish.
I'm going to offer you, and I haven't really done this in a previous interview, so you'll be the first one. I will offer you the opportunity to do a shout out, whether it's for an individual, for music, a song or songs that you released that are available. So the platform is yours to give that shout out.
Well, I've got like I said, my songs are on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, most streaming sites. I'm working on an actual web page right now. I believe it's www.danwesleywhite.com. It's still under construction. I'm trying to put merchandise and things like that up. And another veteran that's in a group with me on Clapper, Jeremy McKern. He's also a veteran. People should check him out too.
Now, if I was to go to Spotify looking for your song, like say 22, I've heard that one. I heard it on Clapper, as a matter of fact. Do I search Dan Wesley White?
It's easier to search Dan Wesley White because if you type 22, you're going to get a bunch of Taylor Swift stuff because she also wrote a song called 22, and I'm not associated with that.
I understand. Well, Dan, it's been a pleasure to talk to you and get to know you a little bit. Being friends on Clapper, I assume we'll still have some opportunities to talk and get to know each other better, and I look forward to that.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. You're my first interview.
And I appreciate you taking the time to let me interview you.
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.